Hey guys, Justin here, and I'm here to talk about this week's blog post. Hope everyone had a great holiday season with family and friends. Got to do a lot of really great things. This week in our blog, I spent some time going over my advice about how I myself go through and sort of review the past year, especially in terms of different sort of health and fitness goals, as well as maybe even athletic achievement goals. Go through, look at how successful or unsuccessful the year may have been as far as that's concerned, and then from there go through picking and setting goals for next year. Obviously, everybody knows New Year's is big resolution time. People are planning the year to come, and they're coming up with things, but also especially if you look running, triathlon, any of those things, a lot of those races open up at the beginning of the year and they fill up fast, so you gotta sit down and set your goals for the year and what you want to really make your focus and plan your training around that. And so I think the first thing I like to look at is whether or not it was fun, whether I enjoyed what I set out to do. And I try my best to think through that aspect of it before I look at whether or not I actually achieved the goals I maybe set out for last year. So before I sit down and say, hey, did I accomplish everything I wanted to in 2019? I'm going to sort of sit down and say, well, did I enjoy it? I mean, most of us aren't lucky enough to get paid for what we do athletically. And so if you're not having fun with it and you're not enjoying it, maybe you're burnt out by it, or you just got sick and tired of training, or whatever you may have been doing, then that's an important thing to look at first before you look at whether or not you achieved the goals that you were looking for. Then I start to look into that. But even before I look at whether or not I achieved them, after thinking about whether or not I enjoyed it or I had fun, I like to ask family and friends sort of what they thought. Maybe sometimes you might not realize it, but you might really enjoy what you're doing, but your training might completely monopolize your family schedule or your time. You might really love going out for those weekend 100-mile rides, but you're never around for anything. And so, that can be a little bit rough on everybody else. So before you look at sort of your thoughts on it, it's great to see what everybody around you thinks about it and sort of how they feel about it. And then sit down and look. And I like to start by looking at, look at all the things you set out to do the year before, and then sort of look through, and the ones that you got done, that's great. And the ones that you didn't, it's a really good time to look at why. Maybe jot down a couple notes as to why some things maybe didn't go as planned. Maybe whether it was, hey, you know what? I don't know what I was thinking. I can't run 50 miles, or I can't do something like that. That's, not in my wheelhouse. Or were you sidelined by injuries? Were you, was weather a factor? Anything like that, see. And then you can sort of sit down and look for commonalities amongst the things that you didn't get done, and see, is there something that you can do about those things, and then sit down at that point and look for those 2020 goals. And so, were you sidelined by injury, and did that prevent you from getting that marathon PR, or finishing that Ironman, or finishing that Ironman in John's case, and a couple of those that he had to bail out on? This is a good way to see if he watches the videos all the way through 4 minutes. But so what we're looking at there, right? Maybe as you set out your 2020 goals, if you were sidelined by injury or something else happened, then you say all right, I'm going to make sure I dedicate some time in the beginning of the season to really focusing on that strengthening and some of that really key components that fall by the wayside as you get deeper and deeper into a training cycle and a training season. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the blog. Any questions, or if you have any advice for how you like to handle this stuff, we'd love to hear it. And here's to a great year for everybody.